Now, had Earth been settled from outer space, then the illusion that the sun went around the Earth could never have got a look in. Similarly, if there had been no lodestone or magnetite naturally found on Earth, then there'd be no compasses. And when they started to discover electricity, without compasses, the illusion that magnetism circulated around the current could never have started either. Indeed, the correct direction of magnetism would have been discovered directly from the direction of the current. Now, when a current flows along a conductor, it carries with it wings of magnetism, or a wind of magnetism that moves along with it. And obviously it gets weaker the further away it gets from the current. And when two currents flow in the same direction, which I call co-parallel currents, the work done between them is less, the pressure is reduced according to the principles of fluid dynamics, and they're attracted to one another. And when in the reverse happens is when they're travelling in opposite direction, the actual pressure increases and the currents are forced away from, and if they're travelling perpendicular to each other, there's no effect. Now, when you start moving currents around current loops, then if the current is spinning this way, the magnetism also spins in the same direction, and it forms a vortex in the root and around the outside of the loop. And when two currents come together and they have exactly the same vortexes, then they're spinning in the same direction. The vortex increases in between them, the pressure reduces, and they're attracted together. They're doing less work there. And if they're actually coming in the vortexes go in the opposite direction, they're grinding together and they're pushed apart. Now, the more loops you have, the greater the vortex, and so you can make up cylindrical coils with hundreds of loops, and for each loop you increase the vortex by that number. But when you put an soft iron bar inside that current loop, the magnetism increases hundreds, goes through the roof, it increases hundreds of times, sometimes 1,000 times strong. What's moreover, when the actual bar comes out of the loop, a lot of that magnetism stays in the bar. It becomes permanently magnetized. In the next experiment, you'll see what happens when a current moves between two very strong magnets. And this current starts to flow when it makes contact with the plate at the bottom here, and it's forced out in a direction that's perpendicular to the current, and it's also perpendicular to the line between the magnets. But it is not perpendicular to the magnetism itself, because between the magnets there is a magnetic vortex. And as a conductor enters that vortex, it is both attracted up towards the top part of the vortex and pushed up from the bottom part of the vortex. And similarly, if it goes in the other direction, it is pushed down from the top of the vortex and pulled down by the bottom part of the vortex. And there just could not be a simpler explanation of what happens to a current as it passes through between two strong magnets. But there was lodestone or magnetite, and there were compasses, and magnets had north and south poles, and opposite poles attracted and like poles repelled. And the convention was adopted that magnetism ran from north to south, and the compass was the yardstick that told them what the direction of magnetism, wherever it was flowing, it showed you which way it was flowing. So in the experiment you just saw, the force on that conductor was now perpendicular to the current in the conductor and to the north-south direction of the magnet. And so a sort of a mnemonic was adopted or invented that said the force was the thumb, the finger was the current, and the middle finger was the direction of the north-south. And so all over the world, you see in all the laboratories, schools, universities, you see people doing this ridiculous thing with their fingers. It's a virus. It's spread everywhere. It's been around for 260 years, this virus has been all over the place. And how much easier is it to just say there's a vortex? And if you look at the vortex, if it's moving anti-clockwise, it's a north pole. You're looking at the face of a north pole back here, and if it's moving clockwise, you're looking back here at the face of a south pole. And you'll never have to do that again. You're cured. There's no more confusion.